Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. Ever feel like your emotions are on a roller coaster you just can't seem to get off of?
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're handing you the controls for that roller coaster.
That's right.
We're going deep into the world of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, with David Byrne's groundbreaking book, Feeling Good.
This book is a classic for a reason, you know. It's all about understanding the link between our thoughts and feelings. And the best part, it gives us practical tools to actually change those thought patterns and feel better.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, can we break down this whole thoughts create feelings thing? I feel like sometimes my emotions just hit me out of nowhere.
Absolutely. One of the core principles of CBT is that it's not necessarily events themselves that cause us to feel a certain way, but rather it's our thoughts about those events. It's like we're all wearing these invisible, mood-colored glasses that color how we perceive the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued by these mood-colored glasses. What do they look like in real life?
Okay, so picture this. You're up for a promotion at work.
Okay.
You don't get it.
Oh, no.
Someone with gray-colored glasses might immediately think, I'm a failure, I'll never succeed.
Yeah.
But someone with, let's say, rose-colored glasses might focus on the fact that they were even considered and use it as motivation to improve their skills. Same situation, two totally different reactions based solely on their thought patterns.
Wow, that's a powerful way to visualize it. So how does CBT help us swap out those gray-colored glasses for something a bit more, shall we say, optimistic?
Well, CBT teaches us to identify and challenge what Burns calls cognitive distortions. These are basically thinking habits or patterns that are often negative and inaccurate, and they can really drag down our mood without us even realizing it.
So it's like these distortions are little mental traps we fall into.
Exactly. And one of the most common ones, and I think we can all relate to this, is all or nothing thinking.
Ooh, yeah, I've definitely been caught in that trap before.
Yeah, it's that black and white thinking where you feel like if you don't do something perfectly, you're a complete failure. There's no middle ground.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like if I don't ace a job interview, I automatically think I'm never going to find a job, even if the rest of the interview went well. It's like I completely erase all the positives and hyper-focus on the one negative.
Which is exactly what these distortions do. And they can be incredibly sneaky. It's not always obvious that we're even doing it.
So besides this all or nothing thinking, what are some other ways our minds might be playing tricks on us?
One other big one is what Bruns calls mental filtering. Have you ever noticed how when you're feeling down, you tend to focus only on the negative aspects of a situation, completely ignoring the positive? It's like you're wearing blinders.
Okay, yes. It's like that feeling when you get a really positive performance review at work, but then there's one tiny suggestion for improvement, and you end up fixating on that one thing all day.
Exactly. It's like you're looking at a beautiful garden, but only focusing on the one weed poking up through the flowers.
And I imagine these distortions aren't just limited to our work lives, right? They probably pop up in our relationships, our self-image, all areas of life.
Absolutely. And they can be so subtle that we don't even realize they're impacting our mood. It's like having a song stuck in your head. You don't always realize it's playing until you really stop and listen.
Okay, so now I'm starting to see how these distortions are like those sneaky villains in a movie,
Yeah.
operating behind the scenes and causing all sorts of trouble. But the big question is, what do we do about it?
Well, that's the beauty of CBT. It gives us tools to become aware of those villains and fight back. But first, let's shine a light on a few more of these pesky thought traps so you know exactly what you're dealing with. Welcome back. Ready to unmask a few more of those sneaky cognitive distortions?
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready to evict these unwanted guests from my mind. What other tricks do these mental party crashers have up their sleeves?
Well, let me tell you about overgeneralization. Have you ever bombed one presentation and
Oh,
thought, I'm terrible at public speaking, even though you've rocked a dozen others?
oh, 100%. Or like having one awkward date and concluding that you'll be single forever.
Exactly. It's like taking a single snapshot of a vast, beautiful landscape
Yeah.
and assuming that tiny picture represents the entire view.
Okay, that analogy really helps. So we've got all or nothing thinking, mental filtering, and overgeneralization so far. Any other big ones we should be on the lookout for?
Definitely. One that really resonates with me is should statements. It's that inner critic constantly whispering or sometimes shouting about what you should be doing or feeling.
Ooh, yeah, that inner critic can be brutal. It's like you should be exercising more or you shouldn't feel so stressed about work. It's exhausting.
Right. And those shoulds often lead to guilt, shame, and this constant feeling of never being good enough.
It's like you're setting yourself up for failure before you even begin. So how do we quiet that inner critic and rewrite those should statements?
That's where the real magic of CBT comes in. Remember how we talked about becoming detectives of our own thoughts? The first step is simply noticing those distortions when they pop up. It's like, I see you. Shoot your statement, trying to sabotage my mood.
Okay, so awareness is key, but then what? How do we actually challenge these distortions and change those negative thought patterns?
Burns offers a bunch of techniques in the book, and we'll get to those in a bit. But one that I personally find incredibly helpful is the examine the evidence technique.
Ooh, tell me more about that one.
It's basically about putting those negative thoughts on trial, acting as both the prosecution and the defense. Let's say you're feeling like a failure because you didn't get that promotion. The prosecution, fueled by your distortions, might present all the evidence of why you're not good enough. But then the defense steps in and says, hold on, what about all the successful projects you've led? What about the positive feedback you've received from colleagues?
So it's about actively searching for evidence that contradicts those negative thoughts rather than just accepting them as truth.
Precisely. And often when we take the time to really examine the evidence, we realize that those negative thoughts are based on faulty or incomplete information.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. It's like fact-checking your own thoughts.
Exactly. And speaking of facts, let's look at another technique called cost-benefit analysis. This one is especially useful for combating those pesky should statements.
I'm all ears. Those should statements really get to me. Tell me how to break free.
Let's say you're beating yourself up with, I should be going to the gym every single day. The cost-benefit analysis prompts you to list out the actual costs and benefits of that belief. What's the cost of pushing yourself to exercise even when you're exhausted or stressed? What's the benefit?
Okay, so the cost might be burnout, resentment, feeling like I'm never doing enough. The benefit might be maybe a slightly lower body fat percentage.
Exactly. And when you really lay it all out there, you often find that the cost far outweighs the benefit. This can help you loosen the grip of those shoulds and create a more balanced approach.
Okay, this is making so much sense. Are there any other techniques that can help us challenge these distortions?
Absolutely. One that I find particularly empowering is the Socratic method.
Ooh, the Socratic method, like the Greek philosopher Socrates. I'm ready to get philosophical.
It's basically about asking yourself a series of open-ended questions to challenge your negative thoughts and uncover any hidden assumptions.
So instead of just accepting a thought like, I'm going to make a fool of myself at this party, I can question it. Like, is there actual evidence to support that? Have I embarrassed myself in every party I've ever been to?
Exactly. And the more you question these thoughts, the more you start to see the flaws in their logic.
This is incredible. It's like you're giving your inner lawyer all the tools they need to build a rock-solid case against those negative thoughts. All right, we're back, ready to dive into the final part of our exploration into feeling good and how we can actually use these CBT techniques to feel, well, less bad. It feels like we've already covered so much ground.
We have, and what's exciting about this part of our deep dive is that it's all about taking action.
Okay.
It's about putting these techniques into practice and becoming the CEO of your own emotional well-being.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So where do we start? What are some practical strategies we can use in our everyday lives to challenge those cognitive distortions we've been talking about?
Well, one technique Burns talks about that I find particularly clever is what he calls verbal judo.
Verbal judo. Okay, now I'm really interested. Tell me more about this mental martial art.
So it's like using your inner critic's momentum against it.
Okay.
Instead of battling those negative thoughts head on, you acknowledge them.
Okay.
Find a tiny grain of truth in them. And then use that truth to shift your perspective.
So it's not about denying the negative thought altogether, but rather kind of meeting it halfway and then redirecting it in a more positive direction.
You got it. For instance, imagine you're nervous about giving a presentation at work.
Okay.
The negative thought pops up. I'm going to totally bomb this and everyone will think I'm incompetent.
Ouch, yeah. Been there.
Right. So instead of trying to force that thought away, which often just makes it stronger, you can try verbal judo. You might say to yourself, okay, it's possible I might not give the most flawless presentation. Maybe a few people won't be impressed. But that doesn't mean I'm completely incompetent. It just means I'm human and I'm still learning.
Right.
You're acknowledging the possibility of imperfection without letting it define your entire self-worth.
I love how this technique helps you stay grounded in reality without getting swept away by the negativity.
Exactly. And sometimes the best way to disarm those negative thoughts is to use a little humor.
Oh, humor. Now you're speaking my language. Laughter really is the best medicine, isn't it?
It truly can be.
Yeah.
When those distortions feel heavy and overwhelming, sometimes all you need is to find a way to laugh at their absurdity.
Yeah.
It can instantly lighten the mood and help you detach from those thoughts.
So, how might we use humor to challenge a distortion? Can you give me an example?
Let's say you're trapped in a cycle of should statements. I should be able to handle everything perfectly. I should never feel stressed. You could try picturing yourself as a superhero,
Okay.
trying to juggle a million things at once, cape askew, with this comical look of desperation on your face.
Right.
It's a way of acknowledging the ridiculousness of those expectations.
That's such a great visual. Sometimes just the act of trying to find the humor in a situation can shift your entire energy.
It really can. And then, on the other side of that,
Yeah.
Burns also talks about using affirmations to counteract negative thoughts.
Okay, affirmations, I'll be honest, sometimes they feel a little cheesy to me. Like, is saying, I am strong and powerful in the mirror really going to change anything?
I get it. I used to think the same thing.
Yeah.
But when used authentically,
Uh,
affirmations can actually be a really powerful tool for shifting your self-talk.
oh,
And it's not about pretending everything is perfect.
right.
It's about consciously choosing to focus on your strengths, your accomplishments, and the things you're grateful for.
So instead of saying, I'm amazing at everything, it's more about reminding yourself, I'm doing my best and I'm proud of the progress I've made.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's about replacing those negative tapes that are constantly playing in our heads with ones that are more positive and supportive.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I've gained so many practical tools to manage my moods and challenge those sneaky thought distortions.
Me too. And the best part is that these are just a starting point.
Right.
There are so many other CBT techniques and resources out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. While we've been deep diving into David Burns' Feeling Good, this is really just the beginning of the journey. Keep exploring these tools, keep experimenting, and remember, you have the power to change how you feel by changing how you think. Keep those mood-colored glasses off, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.